come back. Now, Fatima, before we went on break, you were making a very important point about the issue of how, as diverse communities that we are in South Africa, need to actually work closer with each other in terms of ensuring that we are able to achieve the objectives that we want to actually see being achieved. In the Muslim community, obviously, you're saying that we have a lot more work that can be done, and in the broader society. Now, you have started making inroads as Ilm SA and your work that you do. Do you feel that social cohesion and those kinds of objectives are being met in terms of people, working closer with each other? You mentioned, for example, that we need to be able to socialize more with each other across the different diverse groups in South Africa. We need to intermarry and those kinds of things. Do you feel that the work that Ilm SA is doing is actually taking us towards that direction?
I'm not sure if we're close to a time where we see people intermarrying across race groups through the work of Ilm SA. But I do think that in terms of other forms of social cohesion, yes, we do see it at play. When it comes to our bursary program, we have a philosophy whereby the bursary students, firstly, can be from any race group. Secondly, they can be from any religious group. Thirdly, they can be studying whatever it is that they want to study, provided it doesn't go against the teachings of Islam. So we have a diverse range of bursary students. We have refugees from countries like Burundi and the DRC, for example. We have males and females, of course. We have Zulu-speaking bursary students. We have Indian bursary students. We've even had a white bursary student once. He's the only white student who ever applied. But if a white student wants to apply, they're more than welcome to do so. And we make sure that we try to get them to interact with one another at least once a year on a formal basis. And then we have a WhatsApp group on which all the bursary students are. And through that particular, through those particular platforms, and then the bursary students, again, like I mentioned, come and volunteer at our events. And there's there's different bursary students. They've never interacted with each other on a regular level before, and then they come to an event and they get to spend all this time together, sometimes even playing soccer if it's a kids event. So we find that through that, yes, friendships have been created across certain man-made barriers. We do find a lot of social cohesion happening within the bursary program, I feel. And I have seen bursary students from a particular race group being interested in a student from another race group. And I have said to them that one day when you're all qualified, we're going to turn this into a matchmaking service as well. But that's just being lighthearted. And then when it comes to a program like Muslima Today, we try very much to be non-elitist. So we will ensure that everybody can attend even if they can't afford the fee, which is very nominal. And then we'll get the community to sponsor those sisters who cannot afford the fee. So you'll end up with 40 to 50% of the audience being from a totally different income and racial category to the other 40 or 50%, and nobody knows who sponsored. So everybody is just sitting there watching the same speakers in the same space, and you find that a lot of friendships are formed in that way as well. But I think it's very early days. I don't think we're anywhere near where we would like to be. And I think this is true of the Muslim community in South Africa in general. There is still a lot of work to be done in this regard, and a lot of it starts at home with the individual. Your program is called Be the Change, and that's exactly what I would say it is about.
Now, you're doing great work across the community, but I want to ask you a bit about being a woman, and of course the sort of challenges that women face, in particular running organizations, and then of course doing the kind of programs that you do, because Muslima Today, for example, is quite innovative, bringing women together and having dynamic speakers address them, and of course for them to interact with each other. So how would you sort of see the role of women as having changed, or where are they in terms of the sort of the status that they occupy within society?
I did my master's thesis on Muslim women and civic responsibility in the South African context, and I think Muslim women in South Africa are doing a phenomenal job and playing a phenomenal, significant role in social responsibility, be it at the head of an organization or occupying admin roles, people underestimate the value of administrative personnel in an organization. And most of the administrative personnel in Islamic organizations, I would say, tend to be women, and they're absolutely phenomenal. And then even just the woman sitting at home who isn't actively working, who isn't actively involved in an Islamic organization, but is continually contacting different organizations saying, I want to help, I want to fund a student, I want to do this, I want to do that. We have so many women on our donor list. I've never formally studied the figures, but I would say that there are perhaps more women than men donors on our list of donors for ILM-SA, because we're entirely donor funded.
So you would say that it's an untapped resource. I mean, women being involved in these kinds of activities and of course taking the initiative as you've done.
No, I think they are taking the initiative. There's COCA, there's Caring Women's Forum, there's Caring Sisters Network, there's Jamaat al-Nisa. There are so many women's organizations and they're all doing outstanding work. So I think where civic responsibility comes, a lot of Muslim women are out there and they're getting the work done. And I'm personally very, very proud of them. But when we did start, yes, when we started with the conferences, I remember bringing an overseas scholar down, and I remember him making a comment to my friend and I that we are like men trapped in the bodies of women, and we should not be doing dawah work. Men should be at the forefront of it and we should be in the background. But we just shrugged that off and moved forward and focused on our goal.
Sure. I mean, obviously, with the kind of work that you do, there will be some criticism, there will be some objections, but obviously the point is to overcome all of that and move forward and to, you know, to do the things that need to be done. So, viewers at home, you've heard Fatima Asmal and you've heard about the work that she does. And this is the point in the program that we want to encourage you to become involved in these kinds of activities and to effectively be part of the change. So Fatima, I'm going to ask you now to tell us a bit more about the ways in which the viewers at home and, you know, people generally could become involved in ILM-SA or any of the programs that you do and how they can go about doing it.
Okay, so basically I would say there are 4 aspects to this. The one is if we're hosting an event, please attend it and let other people know about it. Often you hear about these events, but you don't really understand how phenomenally life-changing they can be unless you actually give it a shot. And our next event is Muslimah Today, and I would encourage every single woman who's watching, irrespective of whether she can afford the 400 Rand fee or not, to contact us and to register, and we'll make a plan for her, because it is a life-changing event. So when we're having events, support them. So there's Muslimah Today, there's something called Islam is Fun, which we do for children in the July holidays. Secondly, the other form of support that people can provide is actually volunteering at some of the events. We get a lot of requests from people about wanting to volunteer all the time, but we only have a few flagship events at which people can volunteer. So the first one, in no particular order, is Eid with Difference, which happens on the day of Eid al-Fitr, and that entire event on Eid day itself is run by volunteers. The third thing is to look at funding to assist us. We don't have government grants, we don't get overseas funding. We rely exclusively on the community, on the generosity of donors. And when we see that somebody has initiated a debit order into our Lillah account, it makes us so happy, because we can then fund our administrative expenses. People don't work for free. They need to make a living, they need to support their families as well. So we are always in need of funding, both in terms of our projects as well as getting our admin and our operating expenses covered. So for people to fund us, to donate towards us. And the fourth thing is for people to follow us and learn about what we do through our social media channels at ILM South Africa on Instagram. So that's at ILM South Africa, one word, on Instagram. On Facebook, it's ilm.southafrica. and to maybe contact me. Perhaps you could give out my WhatsApp number, and to add themselves to our WhatsApp BC list, and then to share all the information and the appeals and the program advertisements that we put out there. So I would say those are the 4 ways in which people can get involved and assist our organization, and of course pray for us.
Sure, thank you. So viewers, we will be running the details of Ilma's essay across your screen, so you can take note of that and make sure that you do note it down. We want to begin to conclude this interview by actually asking you to give your thoughts on what you think has been the most significant accomplishment of Ilm SA in terms of what has been done so far. And yes, let's hear from you.
I have no idea. There have been so many highlights. I am a person who has been through various personal challenges in my life, and this organization has essentially been it's been like the healing mechanism in my life. There's so many things that I can think of. I can't even answer that question. I would say one of the stories that really touched me, I wouldn't say it was the highlight, but one December holiday after our bursary applications were closed, I received a text message from a young woman in Johannesburg who had been referred to me, and she told me that she was doing so well at medical school that she didn't even have to write exams because she was doing so well. She was excused from writing exams. However, she could not register for her 3rd year because she was in debt for her 2nd year, and she had no idea where the money for her 3rd year was going to come from either. Plus, she went to bed hungry on most nights because her father literally earned money by going door to door for handouts from people, and she didn't know what to do. She was in despair, and I sent the message to Azra, and Azra said, well, we have to help her. And it was December holidays. I was in that holiday mode. I was a bit irritable. I'm only human, and I sent out this message, and I think in the space of 2 days we raised close to 200,000 rands for her. And we were able to cover her debt. We were able to cover her full fees for the year. We were able to cover her transport to campus, her meals for the entire year. And over and above that, a donor contacted us and said that he would assist her father in covering their rental debt because they were facing eviction. And I would say that is one of the highlights. And when she came to our bursary students meet and greet, she took to the podium and she just cried and cried and cried and made everyone cry.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that powerful story, because I think those are the kinds of stories that we want to hear about how the organization has made a difference to people's lives. So Fatima, I want to thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your journey with us. Viewers, that's where we're going to leave it for today, and I hope that you have really learned something and have been able to really hear how when people get involved, they can actually be the change. So until next time, take care, and we will see you at the next program.